You open the app. You look at the number. It's smaller than it should be. You promised yourself this month would be different. You made a spreadsheet. You color-coded it. You even watched a video about the envelope method. And by day 11, it's gone. The budget, the discipline, the whole plan dissolved into a coffee here and a late-night order there. You tell yourself you're just weak. You tell yourself you lack willpower, but the real reason has nothing to do with that. Your brain was never built to hold a budget in its head. It was built to survive the next 10 minutes. Here's what nobody explains to you when you're setting up that spreadsheet. Budgeting asks you to make a decision today based on a consequence that hasn't happened yet. It asks your brain to trade a small, certain, immediate reward for a large, uncertain, distant one. And your brain is terrible at that trade. Not because you're broken, because every human brain is terrible at that trade. Psychologist Roy Baumeister spent decades studying something called ego depletion. His research suggested that willpower behaves less like a character trait and more like a muscle that tires with use. Every decision you make in a day, what to wear, what to eat, whether to answer that email, draws from the same limited pool. By the time you're standing in line for coffee at 4 in the afternoon, that pool is nearly empty. So when your brain is asked to resist one more small purchase, it isn't fighting weakness, it's running on fumes. Think about your own day for a second. You woke up and decided what to wear. You decided what to eat, or whether to skip breakfast entirely. You decided how to answer a message from someone who annoyed you. You decided whether to say yes to a meeting you didn't want to attend. None of these felt like they cost you anything, but according to Baumeister's research, they did. Each one pulled a small amount from the same reserve. And your budget, the thing asking you to say no to a purchase, is competing with every single one of those decisions for the exact same fuel. This is why your best financial intentions almost always collapse at night. Not because night is when temptation is strongest, because night is when your reserve is lowest. The version of you making a grocery list on Sunday morning, calm, rested, thinking clearly, is not the same version of you standing in front of a checkout screen on a Thursday at 11 at night. They share a body. They do not share the same amount of willpower. That's the first crack in the budget. But it's not the only one. Think about how a budget is actually built. Numbers in a column. Categories with limits. A single lump sum labeled savings. It looks rational on paper, but your mind doesn't spend money the way a spreadsheet does. Economist Richard Thaler describes something called mental accounting. In plain English, it means your brain keeps separate mental buckets for money, even though money itself has no labels. $100 from a birthday card feels different from $100 of your paycheck, even though they spend exactly the same. So when your budget tells you there's $200 left in the entertainment bucket, your brain doesn't treat that as a hard wall. It treats it as a suggestion. And suggestions get broken the moment something feels emotionally urgent. Have you ever noticed that you never overspend on the boring stuff? Nobody blows their budget on printer paper. You blow it on the thing that made you feel something. A bad day. A small celebration. A moment of comparison scrolling through someone else's vacation photos. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely has spent years showing how predictably irrational these moments really are. In his experiments, people consistently made worse financial decisions when they were emotionally activated, whether that emotion was excitement, stress, or even mild irritation. The specific emotion barely mattered. What mattered was that feeling something strongly enough temporarily overrides the part of your brain responsible for long-term thinking. In that window, a purchase doesn't feel like a financial decision at all. It feels like relief. That's the twist most people never see coming. You don't overspend because you don't understand money. You overspend because spending in that exact moment is solving a problem that has nothing to do with money. Stress gets soothed. Boredom gets interrupted. Envy gets quieted, at least for a few seconds. The purchase isn't the real transaction. The relief is. This is why so many budgets fail in the exact same way. They treat the symptom. They never touch the trigger. A budget says, don't spend on takeout. It never asks why the takeout order always happens on the same 3 nights, at the same low point, after the same kind of day. It never asks what you're actually buying when you buy that. So what actually works? Not more restriction, fewer decisions. Researcher Wendy Wood, who has spent much of her career studying habit formation, found that nearly half of what we do every day isn't the result of conscious choice at all. It's automatic, triggered by context, not by willpower. People with strong financial habits aren't making better decisions in the moment. They've removed the moment entirely. The transfer to savings happens before they ever see the money. The subscription gets canceled once, not resisted every single month. The habit runs quietly in the background, long after the motivation that built it has faded. Notice what that actually means. It means the goal was never to become a person who resists temptation better. It means the goal was to become a person who almost never has to. Wood's research found that people significantly overestimate how much of their behavior comes from deliberate choice and significantly underestimate how much of it comes from the environment quietly steering them. Change the environment, and the behavior follows without a fight. Leave the environment untouched, and you'll spend the rest of your life negotiating with yourself, one purchase at a time. Think about how differently that reframes the entire idea of discipline. Discipline was never about gritting your teeth harder than everyone else. It was about designing a life where gritting your teeth is rarely required at all. That's the real difference between the person who sticks to a budget and the person who doesn't. It was never about who wants it more. Picture two people with the same income, same bills, same goals. One checks their balance every night, white-knuckling every decision, feeling like a failure by the 15th of the month. The other barely thinks about money day to day because the hard part already happened once, automatically, on autopilot. Which one do you think still has money left at the end of the month? This shows up everywhere in your own life, whether you've noticed it or not. The gym membership you use religiously is the one where your gym clothes are already by the door. The savings account that actually grows is the one you can't easily see, tucked away from your main balance, out of sight, out of temptation. The debt that finally gets paid off is the one on autopay, not the one you have to remember to log in and send. Think about the last time you tried to quit something using pure resolve alone. Maybe it was sugar. Maybe it was your phone before bed. Maybe it was a spending habit almost identical to the one you're fighting right now. Did the resolve hold for a day? A week? And then, did it quietly slip? Not because you stopped caring, but because caring was never the thing standing between you and the habit in the first place. Every time you rely on willpower alone, you're choosing the hardest possible version of the fight. You're asking your tired, end-of-day brain to outsmart a system built by companies whose entire business model depends on you not being able to. The checkout button is one tap. The saved card is already loaded. The free shipping threshold is calculated precisely to make you add one more thing. None of that is an accident. It was designed by people who understand exactly what you're up against, even if you don't. So here's a question worth sitting with tonight. What's one decision about your money that you're still making manually every single day that could instead be made once and then never thought about again? Maybe it's a transfer that happens the day your paycheck lands, before you ever see the total. Maybe it's deleting the saved card details from the app that always seems to catch you at 10 at night. Maybe it's simply not checking your balance in the exact moment you're feeling low, because that's precisely when your judgment is weakest. Maybe it's something even smaller than any of that. Moving the shopping app off your home screen, so opening it takes one extra step, one extra second of friction, just enough to let your calmer, slower thinking catch up with your impulse. Researchers who study behavior change keep finding the same quiet truth. You don't need to eliminate temptation completely. You only need enough friction, enough of a pause, for the tired version of you to become, for one moment, the clear-headed version of you again. That single moment of hesitation is often the entire difference between a habit that holds and one that quietly breaks, month after month, no matter how many times you rebuild the spreadsheet. None of these require more discipline. They require one small decision, made when your mind is calm and clear, that quietly protects the version of you who will be tired, stressed, and vulnerable later. Notice the pattern in every one of those examples. The decision happens once, at a moment of strength. The protection lasts for months, covering every single moment of weakness that follows. That ratio is the entire secret. One good decision, Repeat it in its effects 100 times without you ever having to remember it, defend it, or fight for it again. Compare that to the version most people try first. Rewrite the budget. Recommit on a Monday. Promise, again, to just be better this time. That approach asks you to win the same fight, against the same tired brain, in the same vulnerable moment, over and over for the rest of your life. It's exhausting because it was designed to be. Nobody sustains a war of attrition against their own mind forever. Eventually, the tired version of you shows up at exactly the wrong moment, and the whole plan quietly folds. The people who look financially disciplined from the outside aren't winning a daily war against temptation. They ended the war. They built a system that doesn't require them to be strong every single day, because they were smart on just one day. From a distance, that can look like impressive self-control. Up close, it usually isn't self-control at all. It's structure, built once, working quietly in the background. So tonight, when you open that app again and look at the number, don't ask yourself why you're so weak. Ask yourself what decision, made just once, would make tomorrow's version of you not have to be strong at all.